A large herd of animals lived in a lush meadow. There was a lion in that meadow who had made life difficult for them. The lion would lie in wait every day and hunt one of them. For this reason, no animal liked to go for a walk in the meadow. Only moments after the lion hunted an animal and left, they could easily walk and eat in that meadow. One day, they sat down and consulted with each other and sent the fox to the lion as their representative. The fox told the lion that one of us must be your food every day. We will meet your need ourselves so that we can walk around the meadow easily. After hearing the fox's words, the lion fell into thought. After a few minutes, he said to them, "So let's make a pact that you will send one of yourself to me every day so that I will no longer come to your meadow and cause you any trouble." The fox brought this news to the animals. All the animals came and made a pact with the lion that they would send the lion's daily food to him and he would stop trespassing on the meadow where the animals live. The animals said, "We will draw lots every day in the name of one of the animals, and whoever the lot falls on, he will become the lion's food that day." The lion agreed and the animals returned to the meadow. From that day on, the animals would choose an animal by lot every day, and the chosen animal would go to the lion himself. This method made the meadow safe, and the animals grazed in it with peace of mind. But the peace was incomplete and fragile, and every animal imagined that day to be the last day of their life, because there was a possibility that the lot would be in their name tomorrow. However, none of the animals forgot the pact with the lion, and whoever the lot fell on, they would go to the lion's den without question. Finally, the lot fell on the rabbit's name. He was very upset about this and shouted that we need to find another way to secure the meadow. The animals answered him, "If you don't go to the lion, the pact will be broken, and he will no longer allow us to walk and graze in the meadow." The rabbit said, "My friends, give me a respite so that I can save you from this calamity with my cunning. This will ensure that your lives are safe, and this peace will be inherited by your children." The animals, though they were not satisfied with the rabbit's arguments, finally agreed to let him do whatever he wants. The rabbit separated from them, but he delayed for an hour and then went slowly and calmly towards the lion's den. The lion was also waiting for the animal that they were supposed to send to him that day, and since that animal was late today, he was twisting himself in anger and digging the ground with his claws. His eyes were fixed on the road. The rabbit walked as slowly as possible and delayed. The rabbit thought more about the words he had to say to the lion to deceive him completely and trap the beast in his trap than about reaching. He had to arrive as late as possible so that the lion's anger would overflow and make him so delirious that he would lose his mind and could not distinguish between truth and falsehood. The rabbit was also thinking to himself that the viewers of this video will definitely like it. Write the name of an animal in the comments and finally subscribe to my YouTube channel. As the rabbit was thinking about this, he reached the lion's den. He suddenly ran quickly. On the other side, the lion, who was completely impatient, saw a rabbit running towards him without fear. The rabbit reached the lion and the lion shouted, "How dare you ignore my command? How does a small rabbit like you dare to ignore me?" The rabbit said, "The animals who had made a pact with you had accompanied me with another rabbit so that the king would have enough food. We were coming on time when a lion stood in our way. He wanted to take us when I said that we are the servants of the king and we are going to his court. He said, 'Who is the king, and how dare you mention the name of another in front of me? If you don't come with me, I will tear you and your king apart.' I told him to let me see the king's face once more and bring you the news of you. He said, 'Then you must leave your companion with me as a hostage, or I will tear you apart.' No matter how much we begged him, nothing worked. He took my companion and left me alone. My friend was 3 times fatter than me, not only fatter, but his beauty and freshness was also more than me. With the presence of this lion blocking our way, we can no longer come to the king's court. You must either turn a blind eye to the animal's quota or clear the way for us by eliminating him. Now take a step forward and destroy him." The lion said, "Hurry up, tell me where he is. Go ahead and show him to me." The rabbit walked ahead like a guide to lure him into his trap. The rabbit had noticed a well when he came to throw the lion in it. Now they were both going towards the well. When they reached the well, the rabbit stopped and said, "The lion I was talking about lives in this well." The lion went forward and looked into the well and saw his image in the water. He thought that this lion was the same lion that the rabbit was talking about. For this reason, he threw himself into the well to destroy his enemy, but he drowned in the water and perished. After this incident, the rabbit ran happily and laughing towards his friends and gave them the news of the lion's demise. When the animals heard the words of the rabbit, they ran towards him and heard the story of the rabbit and realized how the rabbit, with his intelligence and wit, was able to destroy their enemy. From then on, all the animals lived in that meadow in peace and happiness.
In the old days, the work of government was not as organized as it is now. It often happened that the kings were unaware of the people's conditions. The ministers and others who ran the country oppressed the people, took bribes, and gave false news. This was why some kings who wanted to be more and better informed about the people's lives would go for night walks in the city in disguise, dressed as a beggar. With one of their close associates, they would ask about the prices of goods. If they heard crying and wailing in a house, they would investigate the matter. If people were gathered somewhere, they would join the crowd and attend the people's mourning and celebration gatherings. In order to obtain accurate and truthful news from the people themselves, and to be more alert and awake to the people's work, and to be more beloved and respected in the eyes of the people. One night, the king dressed in disguise and went for a walk in the city alone. It was winter, and the city was quiet. The doors were closed, and in the streets, a dog or beggar or passerby could be seen from time to time. The king was thinking of inspecting the corners of the city and seeing if the guards were on duty or not. The king reached one of the squares and saw 4 or 5 people standing in a corner and talking in a low voice. As he was about to pass by them, they came forward and said, "Wait, let's see who you are and where you are going." The king said, "I am just a man like you, walking in the street like you. The difference between me and you is that I don't care about your business, but you are interrogating me." One of them said, "Very well, we don't have time for small talk. How much money do you have in your pockets?" The king laughed and said, "If I had money in my pockets, I would go to sleep in a corner. I am thinking about where the money is. But what do you have to do with my business?" They said, "Wow, it turns out that you are like us too. If you are clever enough, you can join us. We are unemployed and have no bread. Tonight we want to go stealing, but this work is very difficult. You have to climb the wall. You have to be silent. You have to be ready to run away. It is dangerous and troublesome. Are you up for it?" The king, who had never encountered people like this before, wanted to accompany them and find out about their work. So he replied, "I don't know. I haven't done this before. But if you take me with you, I will come and help. If you don't take me, I'm going to go about my business." The thieves said, "No, now that you have recognized us, we will not allow you to go, because it is possible that you will inform the guard and catch us. Then we will have to tie your hands and feet and throw you in the corner of the ruins so that no one can hear your voice. You must know how to do something that will be useful to us. Otherwise, we don't need a clumsy partner." The king said, "What a mess I'm in. What should I know how to do? You climb the wall and take someone's property. Well, I'll help too." The thieves laughed and said, "It's not that simple. Each of us has a special ability that is useful for this job." The king asked, "What kind of ability?" One of the thieves said, "My ability is in my ear. When a dog barks, I know what it is saying and can differentiate the bark of a dog, warning of a thief's approach from one that barks out of hunger." The second one said, "My ability is in my eye. Wherever I see someone in the dark, I will recognize them the next day, even if they are wearing different clothes. This ability is useful when we want to sell stolen goods without getting caught." The third one said, "My ability is in my arm. I can drill through walls and remove doors from their hinges without making any noise." The fourth one said, "My ability is in my nose. I can smell the ground and tell where I am." I can distinguish between the smell of a jewelry store and the smell of a saddlery shop. The fifth one said, my ability is in my hands. When we need to throw a rope over a wall and climb up it, I can throw the rope's hook so skillfully that it catches well and allows us to climb up. One of the thieves turned to the king and said, well, if we take you with us, what ability do you have? The king thought for a moment and said, these are all useful, but my ability is more important than any of them. Your skills are useful only as long as you are not caught. But if you are caught by the guard or the homeowner, none of your abilities will help you. My ability is very strange. My ability is in my beard, which is saving. If a criminal is caught by the guard and the executioner, and if I shake my beard, he will be released immediately. The thieves said, bravo! Your ability is greater than all of us. Bravo for this beard. Truly, you are the leader and head of us. We are willing to give you a larger share than everyone else and get to work with peace of mind. Now let's go faster. There is no need to talk anymore. They took the right alley and set off. As they went a little way, a dog ran away from them and barked. The thief with the special ear said, the dog says that a great man is with you. The others said, yes, he is referring to our new friend, whose beard is saving. Then they came to a short wall. One of them said, climbing this wall is very easy. The thief with the special nose smelled the ground and said, it's no use. This wall is the wall of a poor widow's house. Then they came to a tall wall behind which trees could be seen. The thief with the special hands tied the rope to the top of the wall, and they climbed up and entered the garden. Near the building, the thief with the special nose smelled the ground and said, we have come to a good place. This smells like a jewelry vault. Then, in a dark and safe place, the thief with the powerful arm drilled through the ground and reached the vault from under the wall. They took as much gold, silver, jewelry, and other valuables as they could and quietly left the garden. They hid them all under the ground in a ruin. As it was getting close to morning, one of the thieves said, now let's go one by one and come back tomorrow night to divide them at our leisure. It was agreed that one of them would stay in the vicinity of the ruin in the guise of a beggar until the next night to come and take them. They told the king as well, so far our work has been successful. Come here tomorrow night and take your share. The king, after learning their location and the secrets of their work, parted from them and returned to his palace. The next morning, he sent several officers who confiscated the property of the treasury and arrested the thieves and brought them to court, handcuffed. The thieves, terrified and trembling, in court, and the judge explained their sins one by one and said, people have no peace because of these thieves. Now, for the sake of others, I order them to be dealt with. Inform the executioner. The executioner had not yet arrived when the king entered his place in his official attire. At this time, the thief with the special eye pointed to the other thieves and said, the one who was with us last night, and his beard had a lot of properties, is this king. The thief with the special ear also said, the dog that barked last night said that a great man is with you, said the same thing. Now I understand what he meant. At this time, the executioner was also present. The judge asked the thieves, do you confess to your sins? The thieves said, yes, we confess. But if you want justice to be done, you must punish us all together. Last night we were 6 together during the robbery, but now we are 5. The judge said, introduce the other one too. One of the thieves said, wait a little. We each had a skill and we all showed our ability and are waiting for another ability, the one who can save us. The judge said, in any case, I am forced to order the executioner to punish, and no one except the king can give a pardon. The king had a smile on his lips, and everyone was standing. The thieves didn't dare to speak the secret they knew. In the end, one of those 5 read this poem aloud. We all did our part, O great one. Now shake your beard. The king laughed at this and ordered that, since this is the first time they have committed this sin, and the stolen goods have also been recovered, this time they should be pardoned, and they should also repent of theft. Then he ordered that each one be employed according to his ability and told them, I promised forgiveness once and forgave. After this, there is punishment for every sin. This story is taken from the book written by Rumi. I hope that you have enjoyed seeing and hearing it. Please watch the entire video and leave a comment in response to the question posed at the end. Long ago, in a land beyond the stars, there lived a princess named Jigong. She was the only daughter of the emperor, and she loved to weave. She spent all of her time weaving delicate cloth and blankets with beautiful patterns. The emperor was proud of his daughter, and he would often sit in silence and watch her work. He was happiest when he had a hard-working and artistic daughter. One day, the emperor was surprised to see a new pattern on a piece of cloth that Jigong had woven. Unlike her usual nature, this time she had woven the face of a young man. The emperor was initially furious, but then he realized that his daughter was now a young woman who was ready to marry and start a family. Jigong herself was ashamed of what she had done. She had intended to weave a pattern of a flower, but she had no idea how her fingers had betrayed her. She was so ashamed that she started to cry. The emperor said, "Don't cry, my daughter. I will find you a good husband, someone who will make you happy." The emperor summoned all of his ministers and advisors and asked them to find the most suitable husband for his daughter. After several days of consultation, the prime minister finally said, "Sir, there is a handsome young prince living in the neighboring kingdom. He loves to tend to his flock, and his name is Mogja. What better husband for a weaver than a shepherd?" Mogja was the man whose face Jigong had woven on the cloth. The next day, a delegation was sent to the neighboring kingdom, and the emperor of that kingdom agreed to the proposal. He thought that the two were a good match, and the astrologers also declared that the marriage would be auspicious for the young couple. The wedding date was set, and both kingdoms began to prepare for a grand celebration. As was customary, both families gave their children advice before the wedding. Be honest with each other, face challenges together, and seek the counsel of your parents in all things. That way, you will always be happy. Finally, the big day arrived, and Jigong and Mogja were married. There was no happier couple in the world. They were so in love that they only wanted to be together. They would hold hands, look into each other's eyes, spend all day playing, and count the stars together at night. For a while, things went well. Jigong's weaving loom became rusty because it was no longer being used. Mogja's flock of sheep became thin and weak from lack of food, and they no longer produced any milk. Weeks and months went by, and the news of the young couple's idleness reached the ears of Jigong's father, who hated laziness and idleness. He was furious that his daughter and son-in-law had abandoned their responsibilities, and he ordered them to be brought to him immediately. When the emperor saw them, he shouted, "Didn't I advise you to be hard-working and to seek our counsel in all things? Why are you wasting your time? Don't you know that your actions are setting a bad example for your people? For this reason, I will punish you both severely. Everyone knows that you were both very hard-working before you were together. Your punishment is that you will be separated. Jigong, you will weave in the west, and Mogja, you will tend to your flock in the east." The two young lovers were plunged into deep sorrow. Jigong, with tears streaming down her face, said, "Father, please don't separate us. I cannot bear to be apart from my husband. I will accept any other punishment you give me, but just let us stay together." Mogja also said, "Your Majesty, I beg you to forgive us. We were so in love that we forgot everything. We will make it up to you. You will see." But the emperor was unmoved by their pleas. He sent Jigong to the farthest western point of his kingdom, and Mogja to the farthest eastern point. Jigong and Mogja cried for many days and nights until the emperor's heart softened. He sent a message to them saying, "You can meet each other once a year on the banks of the Silver River. That day will be the 7th day of the 7th month of the year." From that day on, Jigong sat back at her weaving loom and stared off to the east, where her beloved husband was. Mogja also couldn't keep his mind on his work. When he was tending to his flock of sheep, his thoughts were with Jigong, and his gaze was turned to the west, where his wife lived. A year passed, and the day of their meeting arrived. They set out on their journey to the Silver River, their hearts pounding with excitement at the thought of seeing each other again. When they could see each other from a distance, they shouted for joy and ran towards each other, calling each other's names happily. But when they reached the banks of the Silver River, they stopped. The river was so wide that they couldn't cross it. There was no boat or bridge on the river. The two lovers looked at each other longingly and burst into tears. Their tears fell to the ground and turned into a flood that threatened the lives and homes of the animals on the land. For this reason, the animals held a meeting. The black bear said, "We must do something before we drown." The fox said, "We must seek the help of the wise owl." The wise owl, who knew the sad story of the young couple, said to his friends, "The only way to stop the flood is to help them cross the Silver River." There was a heavy silence among the animals. Suddenly, a crow spoke up and said, "We crows can build a bridge for them to cross." The sky was filled with the flight of all the crows and ravens on earth. They flew and flew until they reached the Silver River. There they gathered the wood from the surrounding trees and began to build. They worked together tirelessly, and soon a bridge spanned the turbulent river. When the young couple saw the bridge, they were very happy. Jigong walked calmly across the bridge and reached her husband, eagerly stretching out her arms. They sat together talking all night, but soon the darkness of night gave way to the light of day, and it was time to return. At that moment, a messenger came from the emperor with the news that Jigong and Mogja could return to the palace and live together from then on. They were once again the happiest couple in the world. They had learned their lesson from the past and lived happily and contentedly, working as a weaver and a shepherd for many years. From that day on, several drops of rain fall from the sky every morning, and you can't see a crow or raven on the ground on the 7th day of the 7th month of the year. But if you see one, look at its chest. You will surely see that the poor bird has lost a feather while Jigong was crossing the Silver River. The question I was supposed to ask is, what else could the animals do to bring those two individuals together? Please write your thoughts in the comments.
Once upon a time, there was a king who considered himself the most intelligent and clever man in the world. During the day, when his courtiers praised and admired him, he was happy. However, at night, when he was alone and no one was there to praise him, he became fearful and thought to himself, "Is there anyone smarter and wiser than me?" Eventually, he couldn't bear it anymore. He summoned his advisors and said, "Go and find the smartest person in my land and bring them to me. I will challenge them, and if they lose to me, they must be my slave for life." The advisors went, searched, and found a few intelligent individuals. They were willing to compete with the king only for the promised reward. The advisors, feeling desperate, one night arrived at a lush forest. As they proceeded, they stumbled upon an old and poor village. The villagers were not lazy, but because the king had taken control of all the green valleys and forests, extracting heavy taxes from them each year, they had become impoverished. It didn't matter to the king how these villagers paid their taxes, even though they were poor and had nothing. However, they warmly welcomed the king's advisors, cooked delicious meals for them, and entertained them with plenty of stories. The advisors gradually realized that a man named David was better at solving riddles and recalling verses and events than the others. When they saw him, they whispered to each other, perhaps he would agree to compete with the king. David initially rejected their offer, but with their strong insistence, he finally accepted and said, "I will come with you, but you must like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel." They agreed and took him to the king. The king said, "Do you think you are the most intelligent and clever person?" David replied, "Yes, absolutely. Cleverness is my expertise." The king said, "Then you must try to deceive me. Otherwise, you will be my slave for life." He added, "I'm sorry for you, because I am wiser and more clever than you." David said, "I didn't bring any tools with me." The king asked, "What tools are you talking about?" David said, "My tools for work. I need them to deceive you." The king said, "Go and fetch them." David said, "But it's not as simple as you think. There are many, and if you're wise, you'll understand that I need a few carts to bring them all." The king asked, "How many carts do you need?" And after a pause continued, "Take them from the stable, but return all of them afterward." David said, "Yes, I will load my tools in the carts and bring them in 5 or 6 months." The king asked, 5 or 6 months? David said, "Yes, and even that might be too short. I said I have a lot of tools, and to bring them all, I need a considerable number of carts." The king said, "Very well, just try to come back sooner." When David received the carts, he said, "By the way, I must mention 2 more things. First, if I manage to deceive you, what will you do? And second, please ask people to mention the name of their country in the comments." The king laughed and said, "But you can't deceive me." David said, "I know I can't, but suppose I can." The king said, "Fine. What do you want?" David said, "All the things that you no longer need or have lost from now on." The king agreed, and in haste, David went to the village. He called the villagers and gave each one a horse and a cart. They worked together, planted and harvested enough produce for 10 years. When they stored all the goods in the warehouse, David said, "Now bring all your musk bags." When they brought the musk bags, David filled them with air and placed them in the carts. He then headed towards the palace. The king saw him and said, "If you're ready, let's begin." David replied, "First, I need to unpack my tools." At that moment, the king's black dog entered the room, sniffed David's feet, and David, lowering his head, quietly whispered in the dog's ear. The dog licked David's ear. David, with a loud voice, cried, "This is bad news! Where is my hat? Where is my coat? If possible, give me your fastest horse for my wife. Yesterday, when I left her, she was healthy, but now she is dying." The king exclaimed, "How did you find out about this?" David replied, "Your own dog gave me this news." Everyone looked at the king anxiously. The king ordered the fastest horse to be given to David. He rode off, and after a while, he sold the horse at a good price and bought a black donkey and returned to the palace. The king asked, "So where is the horse?" David said, "Horse? Your Majesty, you must be joking. I am a poor man, I don't have a horse. The horse you gave me turned into a donkey." The king said, "This is impossible." David said, "Possible or impossible, I am right here, just like the day I left. Why do you, a wise and knowledgeable man, speak like this?" The king looked at the ground and the donkey's bridle. Then he said, "I can only say that throughout the time I rode it, it never turned into a donkey. Forget all this. Let's start the competition." David said, "I've already started the competition with you twice. Once with your dog and once with your horse." The king asked, "How?" David said, "Very simple. I told you that your dog informed me about my wife's illness, and you believed me. Now, how can a dog speak or a horse turn into a black donkey?" The king remained silent. David said, "Now give me my reward." The king, realizing that he wasn't as intelligent as he thought, laughed and said, "All right. I promise to give you anything I didn't use or lost during the competition. Tell me, what is it?" David replied, "First, tell your fans to like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Second, I want the forest and lands surrounding the village." The king laughed and granted David the forest and lands around the village. David returned to the village and lived the rest of his life proudly. The king understood that he wasn't as wise as he had thought. From then on, he no longer feared the nights and slept peacefully.